Sirius XM on the app. Check it out. And if you want some swag, I hear we got a Heisman candidate swag up there. Field of68.shop. Yogi Roth, Michael Felder in a new location. We talk about that road trip across the country. And the coach, Kevin Sumlin. Coach, haven't seen you in a minute, fellas. Welcome to the show tonight. How we doing?
Great, man.
Good. Glad to be here.
Glad to be here. All right. So we were talking offline. Last week was the most enjoyable weekend in probably all of college football because of the games that were there. For myself personally, it was my most enjoyable weekend because my kids came to a game. So I wanted to start with you. Felder, you got a little one. Coach, your little ones are now bigger ones. A lot of people that are watching this or listening to this probably are around youth sports. So if you could give one tip to like your future child or your past younger child's coach or my 7-year-old's coach, what would you say around youth sports? Coach, I'm going to start with you with the experience that you have.
Well, I would say that let the coach be the coach, right? So some of the hardest things that ever happened. I can remember my oldest son, even my daughter was a pitcher, and there's nothing that you can do to help them throw strikes, right? When they're little, it's a really helpless feeling, and just let the coach because I hear. When I'm in the stands, I hear what people usually say about me and how dumb I am and poor decisions I'm making and everything else. But it's youth sports, right? Let them play. They're there to get better. So just let them coach and let them have fun.
I love that. All right, I'm gonna cheers to that, to the fun, Coach. I appreciate that. Felder, what you got for the youth coaches and parents out there?
Listen, I'm in the same boat, man. Have fun. Have fun. My kid is she's 4. She doesn't have the intensity that I had when I was 4. And
who does?
You're gonna find out that most people don't.
But it's one of those things where like my dad knows, but my dad feels it because my dad's got 2 4-year-olds. He's got 2 4-year-old grandchildren. And neither one of them have the intensity that his 4-year-old son had. And so he's like, we just got to nurture and just encourage. So to me, honestly, the toast that I would give, encourage your kids, find a thing that they like, stick with it and encourage them. And that's the big key. Doesn't have to be sports, doesn't have to be science, doesn't have to be math, but find the thing that they like and encourage them to do it. That's what I would give to it.
Cheers to that.
Big time.
Here's my thought on that. I spent a year coaching.
Yeah.
I can't coach now because I'm traveling, so I'm observing. And I'll say this. I think a coach's job at any level is to get to know the personalities of your players. Yeah. And within the reins of the team environment, allow their personality to flourish. And I think that's important because I think sometimes in coaching, I had a great talk this morning with Greg Olson. He's got a great podcast called You Think. And it was all about like, sometimes coaches like, hey, it's my way or you're out. And I understand that to a degree, but I think allowing guys to grow within their personality at any age, I think is important. Because I see it with a 7-year-old, like confidence, like all I care about is making sure he maintains his confidence, whether it's reading or playing or what have you. So that's where I'll net out.
I love that. I think you're listen. And I was going to kick this back to Coach Sumlin because how do you handle that? If you got 110 guys in a locker room, how do you handle? Like we're talking college level now. How do you handle? Some guys need to be yelled at. Some guys don't want to be yelled at. Some guys need to be taught. How do you do that?
Well, that's all part of knowing your personnel, right? And back to what you said, Yogi, and Mike. I mean. To me, as a youth coach, you're there to keep people involved in that sport, right? Because there's too many things now that we didn't have when we were little, right? You went out there and played. You played outside in the first place, right? Now you get a uniform. It's even better. Right now, I mean, guys, there's too many other things to do that detract from guys, from kids, girls, guys playing sports. So keep their interest and make it fun. And you have to, but to your point, in a locker room, you've got 110 different personalities. Everybody's not going to be happy, right?
Right.
And I had a coach tell me a long time ago. He said, I'm not going to say who it was, but if I did, you'd figure it out, because I treat all my players the same according to ability. So some guys, are a little bit different than other guys. And some guys just beat to a different drum. And so you have the ability to manage that locker room and talk to the players, and just as long as they know that it's fair, it's a fair shake, and I think you're going to be fine.
Yeah, that's cool. I love that topic, Felder. When we do those shows, I love kind of starting it off a little bit off kilter. So, Coach, I want to kick it back to you though, because we've got Alabama, USC, Penn State. Like, we've seen teams come off a loss now, and it was either emotional heartbreak, Caleb Williams walking off the field, right? Alabama boarding their bus, they're playing, and some in blowout fashion. Like, what would be your first message to each of those teams? Because I think they're all a little bit different. Of first-year coach, guy who's done it forever, and then Penn State trying to get over that proverbial hump.
Yeah, I mean, they're all different, right? And it depends on where you are in the season. It depends on what kind of game was that. I mean, Alabama, there couldn't have been a better football game, except for probably Oklahoma State last week, right?
Right.
Games, those two games were ridiculous. And, as a coach, you reflect on it, but you got to keep moving. Right? Alabama's still a good football team. They're the quarterback's got to get healthy. They're still getting people together, just like Oklahoma State. It's a bad deal, right? But guess what? There's still plenty of football left to play. And you walk in and you see Caleb Williams, he wears it on his sleeve. There's going to be players like that. But you got to reel them back in and say, hey, look, halfway through the season, all right, which is, everybody talks about separation, this and that. Halfway through the season, you still got all your goals out in front of you. All three of those teams can still win their league, and they can still get to the playoffs with the one loss. One loss Alabama, one loss Oklahoma State almost. If they don't go for two last year, right? They're in. So, all those things are still out ahead of you. You put more pressure on yourself now by losing this game, but maybe because of that experience, you're a better football team now. You know your weaknesses. Some of them have been exposed. Some guys didn't play the way that you want them to. And now you might be able to push them a little harder for the next 6 weeks, because everything's that is that much more important.
Yeah, that's great. Felder, I want to hit you this at the end of the show. Both of you, really. What one-loss team are you most confident in as we get through the show? We're going to talk about a lot. Obviously, we referenced the chaos. Talk about the Pac-12, baby. Come on. The pack is rolling. We got week 8 coming. Not as many ranked matchups. We got UCLA and Oregon, of course. We got K-State, TCU, Mississippi State, Bama, Texas, OK State. Like, there's some games that are going up.
Yeah, we got some good ones.
Yeah, and it just feels like, and I think it's because I'm out here. I don't know. But, Felder, I want to ask you, because you're on the opposite coast. Coach, you're kind of closer to me, I believe. But it feels like the holistic part of college football is back versus like cut off the West Coast, which I have felt. And Coach, you lived for a couple of years. Like, does it feel that way out there, Felder, for you?
I think that we are, because, and maybe it's because USC has bubbled up. Obviously, notwithstanding the loss this weekend, or and then obviously Utah going into Florida, and Florida fans not expecting Utah to be that good, and then realizing, oh wow, they exposed us a little bit, and then everybody else took advantage of us. So I think people are starting to pay more attention to the West Coast a little bit, and Oregon didn't do themselves any favors. We can all admit that with that game against Georgia, but USC and Utah helped, and then UCLA, man, come on.
That's my point. I think
Wayne Cook's my guy. Wayne Cook is my guy.
I think there's a lot of people. More people watch that UCLA Washington game than you think. I get to see It was a only game on at that time of night, and it was a hell of a football game.
Yep.
And I think people saw, you know what? UCLA is a pretty good football team.
Yes, they are. They're tough.
And as I said a week ago, we've all been waiting for DTR to be DTR, to be the guy that they want. And he is not making very many mistakes right now. He is a dynamic player, and anybody who's got a trigger guy like that with the talent around him, you get, who would have thought a guy could transfer from Duke and be one of the best players in the country right now for him.
Bobo's crazy.
It's crazy, right? But everybody finds a home, and they are a really, really good football team right now. And I think, as I said a week ago, the eye test, I mean, to me, they're a top 5, 6 team in the country right now.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. If their logo was a little different, or if they had the juice come into the season, like, we all know where they would be currently.
Yeah.
But they sit in a beautiful slot right now. Last year I picked them to go to the title game, didn't make it. This year I picked them to go to the title game and not win, and I had Utah and them going. But the point is, like, I think what Chip's done, and let's just jump right into the Pac-12. We'll get around to the other conferences.
Sure.
But I think Chip has really built it his way. And Coach, I want to get your point on it, because when he got there, Jim Moore had a bunch of success and they had a bunch of players, but didn't fit into what Chip wanted to do, right? They had a bunch of huge recruits. They had a bunch of names there. And instead of trying to do what you can do today, which is what they've done in LA across town with Lincoln Riley, because the portal exists now. It didn't when Chip took over in terms of the immediacy of playing. He slowly built it. And when I look at the portal guys that they've taken, they've missed on one guy. And it was Evidence Njoku, whose brother was on the roster at UCLA at the time.
Right.
Every other guy, whether it was going to Bama, going to Duke, going to Harvard, going to Notre Dame, like all the eval and the schools that the guys that they brought in, they've all hit. Zach Charbonnet, like, he's a real guy. Like, we got to talk about it as one of the best running backs in America. You referenced Jake Bobo, but other guys, whether it's Azizi Hearn in the secondary, Darius Muasau at inside linebacker, have done a nice job there. And then the 3-star guys that they brought in recruiting, they would get dinged all the time. Oh, they don't have the 5-star, don't have the 5-star. But they got like a 5-star fit. And I just think that now with this defense and what Coach referenced about Dorian, like, then you add in Chip Kelly's play calling acumen, like, they're a legit threat. Not like, oh, it's a good story like Minnesota a couple years ago.
Right.
You with me?
Well, here's the thing for me. I think Chip Kelly is, I do think he's brilliant. I do. I also think that what they're kind of combining, there's like a trio of things that they're working on, right? There's the using the portal to get guys. Obviously, Bobo's the headliner, but they've got other guys. And then the recruiting, we know that, listen, this has been a thing when he was at Oregon. It's why he went to the NFL. Nobody loves, and Coach, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but nobody loves like showing around a 17-year-old all the time. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not fun for an adult human man to like cater to a 17-year-old, except for unless you're Nick Saban, basically. Like, that's what Nick Saban is like. He lives for it, and he makes sure his staff lives for it. But Chip, I understand he doesn't love that, so he finds guys that are good fits, and then that's the part I was going to get to. Is the third part? The third part of that is they're working the portal well. They are recruiting at a level that makes him comfortable, but they're getting guys that want to be there, that want to play, that want to work. And they're doing this thing that we've seen places like, Wisconsin or Penn State or Iowa or Pitt, or we've seen them do those things where they get these guys and then those guys get kind of indoctrinated into the system and everybody's on the same page. And that's the part that I really like about what Chip Kelly's been able to grow. Coach Sumlin, course correct me here, because that's what I'm saying.
Nobody's going to correct you, Mike. I mean, I think there's 3 things, right? Number one, he's had time.
Yes.
Right? There was a time 3.5, 4 years ago, everybody's like, what is he doing here? Right?
Yes.
We're struggling. We can't do this, can't do that. And to Yogi's point, I think administratively, what they've done there, the new facility, it's a different place than it was when Chip got there. I'm just being honest. I mean, it's just a completely different place. he's had his effect, but they've been patient with him.
Yeah.
Number one, and to your point, and to Yogi's point, yeah, we want to talk about the guys that came in the portal. Chip let a bunch of guys go too. They were in the portal playing at all kinds of other places. I mean, there's a bunch of guys that were at UCLA that left and are playing at other places that he said that's fine, right? If that's what you want. So he's built this team the way he wants to, not wholesale like USC, but he has made calculated moves and stuck with a quarterback that he believed in from the day he got there, and he's now that's paying off.
Amen. All right, 2 quick things on the Bruins, then I want to break down the game, see where you guys net out. One is that when it comes to transfers, I think the graduate school program they have is as cool as any I've heard. It's called Transformational Coaching and Leadership. Where like you want to come and learn how to be a coach, like they have the who's who of coaches come into that class. I think it's a really cool thing, and they have 16 players getting a master's degree in that. So I think as we talk about the professionalization of college football, it's important to note that there is still the student side of college football, and Chip's guys are doing a good job. He often says books and ball. It's kind of the big theme over there. And then the DTR, right? Like as a Heisman voter, right? Here's my moment here. The award is defined as the player who exhibits excellence with integrity, right? So Dorian's got his degree. He's been stand up since he's gotten there. But my number one number that I love around DTR is 304. And that's the amount of pass attempts he had in high school. Played as a senior. Most quarterbacks have over 1,000 when they enter whatever college they choose to go to. Since his sophomore year ended, because he was up and down as a freshman, first started Oklahoma, we know that. Second year, they were up and down. First half of the Colorado game of the 2020 season was funky. Since then, he's thrown 68 touchdowns, 12 picks. And this year's completing 75% of his passes, and he's not playing catch. He's playing quarterback. He's playing quarterback. And I just think it's noteworthy because I think, and I talked to some of the guys that are going to be up there for game day this week, and I said, please don't say that Dorian's an up and down quarterback. That was year 1 and year 2 and the first half of year 3. But the last 2.5 plus years, he's been as steady and just tracking upwards as anybody in the country at that position. I think it's critical that we just state it because I think he's an easy guy to just reputation up and down dude.
I think that I'm putting him in the same camp as Max Duggan with Spencer Sanders, guys that we've talked about for a long time and have waited for them to get to where we wanted them to be. And Yogi, you and I, we were there. We were together in Redondo. We were together in Redondo watching this kid play, watching DTR as he followed up Tate Martell, right? Yeah. We were in Redondo watching that. We were the stopwatch and watching the pro day and doing the whole deal. We did that. And he had all the tools. He showed us all the tools. We needed him to get all those tools put together. And now he's playing for a coach, not playing for a coach. He's playing with a coach who understands, who they have an understanding. They know where they want to be. You throw in Zach Charbonnet, you throw in the idea, you throw in Bobo, you throw in this. These guys are on the same page. And when I watch DTR, when I watch him go full field read, boom, slant's not there. Skinny's not there. The backside dig's not there. I don't have my hitch. I'm going to the sideline over here with my running back on the flare after he already blocked and then flared out. When he's able to go through 4, 5, boom. This is a guy that's playing football. Like, that's football. That's what you're supposed to be doing.
Love the juice. Love the juice, man.
Yeah, it's like I said, right now the guy's playing at a high level, and we've all been waiting on it.
Yes,
all been and in my mind, as a quarterback, and a lot of people don't want to talk about it, right? But you're going to have games where, and Yogi, you could probably expand on it. You're going to have games where, hey, bro, we know it's going to be me and him today. One of us is going to win this game.
Yeah,
right? It's going to come down to that, and I think, the Washington game kind of set him apart because we all knew what Washington had. right?
Penix.
He's an exceptional player. He's been hurt every year. He's got unbelievable arm talent. And, but to win that game the way in the fashion that UCLA won it, and to keep going and everybody saying, well, we'll see next week. Well, we'll see next week. Guess what? We're getting to be week 6, 7 now, and he's still playing like that. And I'm with you. I mean, he's playing as well as any quarterback there is in the country right now.
Okay, so let's flip it, because their defense is the most improved part of that team.
Yeah,
and they're going to play another guy in Bo Nix, who I've had a couple of Bo's games, had their most recent one against Arizona. Mm-hmm. And Bo's told me this many times, and I think it's reflective in his play, that he's playing with the most confidence he's ever had in his life. And he's playing really free. And I credit Dan Lanning and Kenny Dillingham for coaching him and talk to him in that way. Like, Coach, you coach in the South. Like, Bo would say, like, sometimes you feel like you wear everything. And I think that your head coach has the ability to alleviate some of that. I think Lanning and Dillingham have done a phenomenal job there. And he's playing his best football. We've got, like, legit Heisman candidate duel to your exact point.
Well, the other part is, when you come through like that, like Bo, and since he was in junior high school, it's so much pressure on him. And let's be honest, he went as far away from home as he could go without leaving the country. Get away from that, right? So he's in a good spot for himself. And he's got a smile on his face. He's playing free. And, there's been no question about his talent. I mean, he's really talented. So, it's good for him. And the transfer portal, it's like we talked about last week, like, all these guys that have shown up at all these other places that may have not had success at the last place. And the coaches have done a great job, just like with Bo, but they show up in a new place with new life and a new breath, and they're playing lights out. I mean, just lights out. And they're difference makers all over the country right now. We can name 6, 7 of those guys right now who, well, what happened to so-and-so? And then they look up and like, that's where he is. And he's going up and down the field, right? But it's just completely different looks, smiling on the sideline, slapping people on the back, right? Hugging folks. Like, he's been waiting for this all his life just to play free. And I think Bo fits right into that category right now.
I think playing free is the key. Being so close to home, everybody's watched you the whole time, and getting away, as you mentioned, as far away as he could be. I mean, like, what he could have gone to Corvallis, I'm sure, but like, he's pretty much as far away as he could be.
If Hawaii had called him, he might have gone there. Put it that way.
Exactly, yeah. But it's one of those things where he looks more comfortable, right? Yeah. He looks comfortable. And Yogi, you called a couple of his games already. Like, he's settled in. And the first game was a disaster. That first game was a disaster for that entire football team. And then they started to figure out everything. And they're figuring it out, and they're becoming a little tougher because they're getting some of that Dan Lanning kind of injected into them.
Yep.
So they're getting tougher, and they're figuring it out, and they're fighting, and they work hard. And that's I don't know. I was doing a show earlier today, and I think that the hardest thing in football, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, we've all been in this game for a long time. We've all been in this sport, played this sport, worked in this sport for a long time. But I think the fighting part is the hardest part. And you have to decide that you want to fight. And that's what I mean by that is, on defense, you have to decide that you want to make every tackle. You have to decide that you want to do the dirty work, right? Like, you want to get muddy. You want to live in that dirt. You want to, if you got a wrong arm, you're going to wrong arm. And that's something that, and listen, I'm not trying to alienate listeners, but basically a wrong arm is when you spill wide so that somebody else can make a tackle. And it's ugly work, but you got to decide you want to do that ugly work. That's what that's what stood out for me about Oklahoma in that game against Kansas is I know they wore their Unity jerseys and the whole deal, but they did look like a team that decided we're going to do the ugly work today. And Oregon, to take it back to the original point, Oregon wants to do the ugly work. It looks like they want to do the ugly work after that first game. And it looks like for Bo Nix, having people around him that want to do that ugly work with him makes him feel more comfortable, makes him feel more confident. And he doesn't feel like he has to be a hero. He feels like he can be a quarterback.
And Yogi, to your point early, the question about the tough games last week, right? Those tough losses, it's obvious that Oregon's coaching staff took that and the players took it and moved on.
Yeah.
And like, you know what? We just played a really good football team, a top tier program. Yep. And we need to get, for lack of a better term, we got to get our shit together right now.
Yes.
Because and they have done a hell of a job there, because those guys have responded and the players are playing well, and the coaches have taken that. So, after things like that, you can go one way or the other and be like, oh, woe is me, because everybody, except for you, Yogi, but everybody was like, Oregon is done, right? They stink.
Hey, you see the helmet. You see the helmet.
Good. I snuck it in,
good.
Right?
That's good. But I'll tell you what. All right, so let me get. This is my job, right? I know my role here, and around the country, around the Pac-12.
Right.
In the first game of the season, 29 missed tackles.
Yep.
376 yards after contact allowed. Now I know
that's
Georgia's
my point,
good, but they're not that good, and I don't think they're 49-3 better than Oregon. They played as bad as they could. They had 4 possessions in the first half.
Right.
Move the ball on all of them. 2 ended in picks. So to your point, like, it was the worst recipe of all time. And if you just tuned in, you're like, they're terrible. The pack is over. Oregon's
get them out of here.
But I was there the next week and gaining context around Dan Lanning's team of first time on the road, first game of the year, first time doing warm-ups together in front of a crazy crowd. First time having to deal with real adversity.
Home crowd.
A crazy crowd.
A bonkers out of this world crowd coming off the Natty, the whole thing. Like,
right.
And every AD wants to do 2 things: never schedule Air Force, and the new advice: never schedule the defending champ in a home game across the country. Right? Like,
the problem is you don't know if they're going to be the defending champ 5 years from now.
Yeah, it's impossible to predict. But I can't imagine a Pac-12 team ever going further than Vegas for a non-conference game for the rest of the Pac-12's life, or Pac-10, or wherever we end up becoming. But to that point, I look at Oregon, and I'd be curious if you can tell me, because you guys watch the rest of the country with more detail than I do. I haven't seen a better offensive line in this league since Stanford back in the day when they were rolling people. I don't know who you think is the best O-line in the country, but I think that Oregon has 3 dudes that dipped their toe in the NFL last year, 2 tackles in the center, and all came back, and they're absolute road graders. Like, and a quarterback can run with his legs. Like, I just love this part of their team. Wonder if you see it that same way as you look around the country.
I think their offensive line is very good. I will say this. I think that and here's the thing. Because Oregon, if I'm not mistaken, they've given up 1 sack this year. Is that right?
Yeah, and they would argue it because it was like 6 inches from the line of scrimmage. You tried to get back to it. Yeah.
I think Ohio State, Ole Miss, and I'm gonna throw Tennessee in there, but Tennessee is also living in this different world with that speed and space, where they're taking your chance to get sacks away from you. It's not the offensive line play. But I do think that Ole Miss is definitely, I don't think they have maybe the caliber of offense of NFL guys, but I do think that Ole Miss is in that same world.
I'll go back to what I said, right? I agree with the Yogi. Those 3 guys, and I would say even they've got 4 guys right now.
Yeah.
That are NFL players, offensive line, right? But I go back to my original statement. The way that first game went, right? Public perception was they got their ass kicked, right?
Yes.
Right up front. Whether that happened or not, that was the public perception with Georgia. And it looks to me, the way they play right now, they have taken that personally, and they're putting on tape what they want on tape in the Pac-12 or against other opponents. And I mean, they're like you said, I agree with you. They're about as good up front as anybody in the country, but I think a lot of it comes back to that first week, right?
Yeah.
What happened? Who's responsible? And why did this happen? But certainly they put that behind them. But I do think they've taken a lot of pride in, hey, look, we are not the guys that played first week. We are this football team, quarterback, O-line, the defense. They're playing with an edge, and they're playing really physical football, which is going to give them a hell of a I mean, they got that. They have as good a chance to win the league as anybody right now. And creep in, just keep creeping up a little bit. Because keep creeping, and you never know, right? You never know.
You never.
Well,
know.
I wanted to slide this one in there because as long as we're on the Pac-12, can we slide Utah in here?
Oh, just go in there, Coach. You got it. Go for it.
Can we slide Utah in here because what they did this past weekend? Come on, give it to me, Coach.
Hey, you heard me from week one. I mean, this guy's a football coach, right? So he ranks right there with he's going to have a team that you have to beat them. They are not going to beat themselves. They're going to play really good defense. They're going to be where they're supposed to be. They're going to be physical. They're going to be tough. And they're going to have a little bit more speed on the field than you think they do because it's Utah. They got some dudes out there that can go now and game changers. So, they've been in real football games.
Yeah.
Utah is, and we've been in a lot of different stadiums all over the place. I laugh. I was like, what is going on here? They got a DJ in the end zone. It's Utah, right? It's a blackout. And it's, it's loud as hell there, music rolling. I'm like, this is really Utah, right? And then, so it's a hard place to play, altitude, weather later on this year, and they take pride in it. They've got good players. They're well coached. And, you like you said, this thing's going to come down all the way to the end because, there's three really quality football teams that we're talking about right now, right? With Oregon, with USC, with the talent level they have, with Utah, and then you're going to have some dark horses in there because you're going to have to travel and play.
Yeah.
And Oregon State's a better football team than people are giving credit for.
I love them.
They're
explosive.
Hell of a job, and we all know nobody really wants to go and play there, walk across the parking lot. Like, what is this, right? It's a football game, like a high school team, but it's loud as hell in there, and they've got real talent. Oregon State is going to get somebody, one of those two or three teams. They're going to get one of them.
They should have got USC.
I know.
So I called SC Oregon State and then Utah Oregon State.
Yeah.
There ain't an AE in the SEC that would ever have two challenging games like that back to back. Like, that was as hard of a stretch for anybody. I think that's top 30 team in America. I think Oregon State's in that regard. Real quick before we move on to another league, just for context, you look at those four teams that I think are kind of tier one in the pack. Oregon, UCLA playing this weekend. SC and Utah played last weekend. Then I think it's Oregon State, UW. You can debate wherever you want to go there. With that said, the Ducks, UCLA at home. They don't play SC. Utah, Washington at home in that offense. Utah at home, and then they go to Oregon State in the rivalry. So they get most of them in the confines of Autzen, but they have the toughest stretch of the four.
Yes.
We go to UCLA, and we know where they are this weekend. They go to ASU, and that's it. They don't leave California. They go to Cal in the finale, but that's it. SC, I think, is.
Can we give props to Stanford, by the way?
Oh, we're going to go there. I'm calling there. I'm heading there tomorrow. Yeah. You know that. You see the helmet. Come on, baby. We're going there. SC, they go to Arizona next week on homecoming, Halloween weekend. I'll be there for calling that one. They don't leave California the rest of the way. And remember, they play Notre Dame in the finale. So they'll know their title. Like, they'll already be going to Vegas or not based on the UCLA game that they have to go place across town. But I think they've got the easiest road when you look at games to get to Las Vegas. And then Utah, Utah's sneaky hard. They got to go to Pullman on a Thursday night.
That's rough.
As Leach famously said, it's like Woodstock, except people have their clothes on after they beat the Trojans a couple of years ago up there on a Thursday night. That'll be a challenge. And then they go to Oregon. And then, so those are kind of their 2-1. So I think, to Coach Sumlin, your point, like, this league is going to go down in the end. What I hope, and I think what we all should hope, is that there's a couple either undefeated or one-loss teams. And we'll see that after Saturday. A big decision will be made around, is UCLA a one-loss team? Is Oregon out of it? Or is Oregon throwing themselves really back in the middle of this thing? We'll kind of roll from there. So with that said, appreciate the Pac-12 love. First half hour of the show. We're breaking records. I imagine that's never been done before in the history of Field of 12. That's why I'm here, guys. Let's go to the Big Ten, okay? I think it's interesting. Like Illinois, we're going to hear from Tommy DeVito here in a minute. He talked to our George Whitfield earlier. We saw what Michigan did. We know what Ohio State has done. Like, Coach Sumlin, where do you net out with this league right now, and finish up with a thought on Illinois, if you don't mind?
No, I said, and with Mike a week or two ago, I said, by the eye test, just the eye test, I ranked Ohio State number 1 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I ranked Tennessee number 2. Remember that, Mike?
Right? Yes.
Ooh, called it.
He did. Hey, he did.
By the eye test, okay? Just guys are playing, and how the teams are playing and the quarterbacks are playing.
Yep.
Ohio State is still a complete football team. And,
yes.
and I don't know where they keep growing these receivers from, because they just keep coming in there, long, athletic, can fly, get it around them, and they're going to catch it, right? And if they make one guy miss, they're wire-to-wire guys. They're a complete football team. It'll be interesting to see how Michigan continues to get better. I didn't believe in the first week. I'm Michigan, right? And so, crazy Jim Harbaugh, but he seems to be a little bit more sane on the sideline right now. he's not running up and down, like yelling and screaming, and they're playing at a high level. Beyond that, who is it? Illinois, right? I know I got on the high horse last week, Mike, with Brett Bielema, but
yeah,
you watch them play. If they get on the field, talent-wise, they're nowhere near those other 2 teams, right?
Right.
The team that's gotten better every week is Purdue. I mean, what they did to Minnesota was a shocker to most people, right?
Mm-hmm.
24-0 in the third quarter. Then, they should have beaten Penn State the first week, the very first, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nobody gave them a real chance against Maryland. They win there, right? All they do is just keep winning and getting better. So, to me, in that league, I mean, they just keep getting better. And in the West, I mean, who are you going to get? I mean, who's it going to be, right? Iowa can't score more than 8 points in a game, right?
Yeah.
That's if they get a safety and 2 field goals. So it's a rough deal, right? So to me, in the whole league, Ohio State's clearly one of the most talented teams in the country, and then they're going to make a run for it all, I think, and when it's all said and done.
Here's what I'm going to say. I'm going to be quick because I know we got to get to DeVito. Illinois is only giving up 9 points a game. 9 a game. 8.9 if we're going to be fair. This team shows up every week. Chase Brown is a monster. DeVito has figured it out. And it's really, and you guys correct me wrong, it feels weird to watch him in orange and blue, but not Syracuse.
Yeah.
So this team is figuring things out, and they know who they are. And I've said this a million times, but identity matters in college football, and they know who they are. And that's the part of like this. We talked a lot about Utah kicking themselves for losing to Florida. Illinois losing to Indiana. Ooh, this is a team that could be undefeated right now.
Well, here's the other thing we talked about early, right? DeVito, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. I think I first saw him play in 2018, right?
Yeah. Yes.
I mean, he's like DTR. This guy's been playing football forever, right?
Yeah.
And a new place, and I mean, he's like, who's this guy? You know, the Bosco kid. That's where he is. He's playing there. It was 2018.
My guys did his commitment video.
Right. So over time, he has gotten better. He's found a home. I told you last week. I mean, just like Utah, you know, Brett Bielema is another guy. They're not going to screw it up. They're going to be where they're supposed to be. They're not going to have a bunch of penalties. They're not going to turn the ball over. They're going to wait for you. If you make a mistake, you'll look up and they'll be like, "Damn, it's 10-3, and we got poor field position because they're punter. The ball's getting knocked down inside the 10-yard line. We get 3 first downs. We aren't even at midfield, right? So it's a long grind out deal, and Illinois is well coached and in a position to be solid in a league and on a side of the league where I think from a talent standpoint, they've got every chance to win that side as anybody.
It's going to be interesting. Their only ranked team as of today that they'll play will be Michigan, and they may be able to get to the title game. Next week, we'll dive into the CFP. We'll talk about the room, maybe how we make positions and arguments for different teams. But in the meantime, let's hear from Tommy DeVito. I think he was Felder, like quarterback rank, like player rank 367 or something like that coming out of high school, and now he's easily one of the top 60 probably in America, and one of the top starters in the Big Ten.
That's what happens when you're 30 years old. No, he's probably 24. I'm just being.
Amen. All right, here's George Whitfield and Tommy DeVito.
But could not be more thrilled. Can you just tell us right now, what is life like inside the Illinois football building?
You know, it's like it was week one. Obviously, a little more excitement, but I think as a team, just staying level-headed. Obviously, we've had success going forward. Obviously, still a lot to improve on. You know, a lot of games left, still 5 games left in the regular season. So looking forward to those and really just working on going 1-0. Obviously, everyone's excited. Everyone knew throughout the summer what this team had the ability to do, and it was really just about going out and doing it. And I think that we've done a good job of that so far, and I think that we're going to build off of that.
A lot of that construction, when you talk about building, especially for a quarterback, comes from your play caller and your offensive coordinator. You got an incredible one in Barry Looney. What's it been like putting these game plans together, working through the week to execute them, and then pulling them off Saturday after Saturday with him?
Right. Coach Sumlin does an awesome job. I mean, he really makes it easy for us. You know, on Tuesday, that's kind of like our feel it out day, you know, because Monday's a day off. Tuesday, they put a lot on the table to see like what we can handle and what we feel good about. And as the week goes on, he's very good about cutting things back to make sure that we can go out and play full speed 100% without thinking too much. So whatever someone may not be feeling out, it's scrapped. He's very simple with that. And I appreciate him for that. And obviously him being a prior quarterback, he knows what it's like to be back there, you know, and see how the game unveils from that point of view. So I appreciate it a lot.
But just quickly, would you just share how rare that is? You get so many personalities as a quarterback when you go up against coordinators. Some are, I got it, guys. You just wait until I tell you what's coming. Others are a little bit more collaborative. But can you just share how rare that is? And it also goes because you're a veteran quarterback and you've seen a lot of, you know, battles. But how rare is that to get somebody who welcomes your input, since you're the one that's got to go out and execute it?
Right. I mean, it's rare. You know, I've had I think this is my 5th offense coordinator now.
Oh my
so I've been
God.
around some in college. So yeah, so I've been around some, but just with him, you know, he's very like, it's all about us. You know, he made that point a couple weeks ago and makes it again. Like for the coaches, they've done their time. They've played all the games that they're going to play. Now it's all about us. It's about us as players. So for them, they try to put us in the best situation possible, and to put us in the best situation possible, it's about what we feel most comfortable with. Now, there are going to be some things we're not as comfortable with, but as coaches, that's their job to get us comfortable with that. And they do an awesome job to getting us there for Saturday.
What's it like being around the alpha Brett Bielema? Big time head coach. He's won everywhere he's been. And again, full disclosure, I was a GA at Iowa when he was a linebacker coach at Iowa. So I've known him half my life. But what's it been like playing for him, his quarterback leading his charge?
Right. It's awesome. I mean, I'm just thankful for spring ball, because that was the biggest time for me and him growing. Obviously, I came from a different style of offense. It's more of like, taking shots and this kind of deal and really just trying to push the ball out on the field and being more aggressive versus, he was more strategic and smart about it. So really for myself and him throughout spring ball was a lot of learning, us like trying to learn his style of play and how he likes to coach and that. But yeah, I'm really thankful for that and just being a part of that. I mean, he has so much knowledge and he gives us as players so much knowledge, whether it's about football, life, everything, and he just pours that all into us, and we just, we try to absorb as much of it as we can. And, it's just never ending, and that's something that I haven't been around, and something that I'm very appreciative to be around.
What would you say is the single biggest thing he's pushed out of you, be it improvement or wanting you to amplify or whatever it is coming through that spring phase?
Right, just letting the game come to me. Just don't overcomplicate it. It's a game of football, but really just be efficient on early downs. That's the biggest thing. Be efficient early downs so you can make all the other downs easier as they come and not getting stuck in a, 2nd and 10, 2nd and 12. And really about knowing when, situational not to take sacks in certain situations. Throw the ball away, get the ball out of your hands so you can get knocked out of field goal range. Just small things like that, details like that, and just letting the game come to me and not trying to force anything where it doesn't need to be forced.
Oh, I love it. Hey, nobody on this thread ever hits the snooze button. Just wake up and get after the day, baby. Right, Coach?
That's
Wake
right.
up and get after it. All right. So with that said,
Attack.
definitely look, no snoozing right now if you're Michigan State or if you're Wisconsin. Really excited in the preseason about these teams. A lot of hype around these programs. One let go of a coach who 70-some% winning percentage. Right now, Jim Leonard's getting his audition for that job. We know what Mel Tucker has done there and then how much noise he made in the portal. Expected it to be different after the Washington game. Didn't think it would keep going down that road. For both of you, like, what's your take on these two teams? Like, the Big Ten used to be a powerhouse. Hey, I could say because the Pac-12 took our hits. Like, doesn't feel like one right now as a collective of a league.
I'll hop in. I think that there is it's not a power void because Ohio State still has the power, but when we look at Wisconsin, we look at Michigan State, I think that these are rudderless isn't even the word. The thing that I look at with Michigan State is a team that still can't do the stuff that they want to do. And they caught lightning in a bottle through the portal. As you mentioned, Coach Sumlin, sometimes the portal can be very giving, but what it giveth, sometimes it taketh away. And on the Wisconsin side, they've got this amazing talent in Braylon Allen, remarkable player. And they just it's almost like he got there. What do we even call it? 3 years, 2 years too late. Because remember when they had Schubert, or even 3 or 4 years ago when they had T.J. Watt, and when the defense was unstoppable. He got there a little bit too late. The defense is going through a transition, and they're not a team that's going to play an offense that's going to push and move and compensate for that defense. So they're in a rough spot. That's the way that I see it. I think Wisconsin is in a time crunch where your best offensive player got there a little bit too late for your defense to be an asset for him. And then with Michigan State, I think we're looking at a football team that just – they still don't know who they are. But let's be real. They haven't been the same, with the exception of stopping the run. They haven't been the same since Harlan, Barnett, and Narduzzi left.
It's it's tough. I mean, to watch Michigan State play, you're like, who are they right now?
Yeah.
Right. That's basically like you identified with Illinois. You know what you're getting, right?
Yeah.
We know the culture at Wisconsin. But I'm not sure who Michigan State is right now. I mean, offensively or defensively. And because of that, week to week, they're struggling. I mean, really struggling. The pressure that gets on, when you fire a coach in week 3 or 4, like what happened in Wisconsin, and a guy who had won a bunch of football games.
Yes, a ton.
Some football games, not kinda. He won a bunch, right? And even for the players and for the rest of the guys on that staff, I mean, that's an eye-opening experience, right?
Yeah.
Now what? And so, that's a difficult situation Wisconsin's got, and neither one of those teams right now. I mean, it's hard to say who's going to win this game because neither one of those teams right now, in my opinion, have an identity of who they are or what they want to be.
Sure. Well, here's the thing: is Wisconsin lost to Michigan State, which is crazy. Like, did you have that coming in, Yogi? Like last week going into that game, did you have Wisconsin losing to Michigan State?
It was kind of a toss-up for me. Like I didn't know. Like the thing I'm most curious about this week is the Michigan game. We all know what happened last year.
Yeah.
Like we started the show off talking about like how do you handle dramatic wins, dramatic losses because of the huge games from last weekend. What if Michigan State could put it together? Like this is a moment, I think.
They've got a bye week, so they have a bye to figure something out.
Yeah.
Here's my question, right? Those two you're talking about, what's the difference between in Minnesota? 3 weeks ago, we're talking about Minnesota, right? 3-0.
Yeah.
Right. And
yeah.
I mean, and they get their chance on national TV, and I'm like, whoa, are they any different than Michigan State or Wisconsin? Are they?
They beat Michigan State 34-7.
I know.
That's crazy.
But right now, today, who are they?
No clue.
That's what.
And they got Penn, and then Minnesota has Penn State this weekend.
Exactly.
What does that look like?
Yep. Full disclosure, I talked to Loxley 3 weeks ago at Maryland, and they were humming along, and they're getting ready to play Purdue. He goes, this is one of these games that Purdue wins somehow, and they go beat Maryland there, right? He's like, these guys. So the Big Ten, besides Ohio State, right?
Who is anyone?
And we still don't know about Michigan, right? We think we know, but is it really, right? They've played some close football games, but as I've said, there could be the crazy Jim Harbaugh pop out any week now, and then you never know what's going to happen there.
It's a good point, and just to throw it out there, like I love the eye test side of things because we're going to hear that a ton in the coming weeks as the playoff gets unveiled. To be fair, Ohio State, like it's just the eye test because they haven't played anybody that you're like, I believe in them. So again, I think in college football, like we live in this world sometimes where teams just get a pass. Right? Like Bama gets a pass, Georgia gets a pass, like you're just throwing out the passes. Like
Clemson
gets a pass. Yeah. OU's gotten a pass. Like people get passes. Yeah. I don't know. Ohio State's the closest thing to getting a pass, but I don't give it to them yet. I don't know if you guys are. Like I don't think this is a year where it's like LSU with Burrow or Bama in pandemic year. Like it was so much better than I thought everybody. Georgia defensively. So let's play a game.
Okay, let's do it.
We're going to do two things to finish off in the last 6 minutes. I want you to give me the one loss team you believe in the most, and then I want you to give some love to another team. So we're going to go round robin. The one loss team you believe in the most. I'll rattle off a few teams. Coach Sumlin, will start with you.
Okay.
Of course, we have Bama, Oregon, OK State, SC, Wake Forest, Penn State, K-State, Illinois, Cincy, North Carolina, Tulane in your top 25. Right. What do you believe in the most?
To do what? To go to
roll the rest of the way. We know there's no mark. Well, just to win out.
Well, obviously Alabama, right? Yeah. They're going to be fine. This will be motivation for them. The team I was impressed by, I've seen a bunch of one-loss team is Tulane. Be honest with you, because I
like Tulane.
Houston, this should have been one of their better years. They got the 6th year, another 24-year-old quarterback, right? And they've got a bunch of players back, but Tulane is a really, really good football team, and so completely different levels right there. But it's hard to say Alabama's not going to be there at the end of the year as a one-loss team. But to your point, a one-loss Alabama has helped the Pac-12 now because the one-loss team right now will still have a chance for the playoffs.
Yeah, amen.
Okay, I got to get in here. First off, ECU should have beat Tulane. If they make that field goal at halftime and they're only down 2, it's a different football game. So first down, Pirates. I love ECU. My parents met at ECU. I gotta rep. You can find me in Ficklin, baby. Okay, but no,
But they
if we're
didn't
talking,
win.
they didn't win. No, they didn't. So if we're talking one-loss teams that I think are going to be on the periphery, hovering around, waiting to see for opportunity, I'm going Wake Forest.
Ooh, slow mesh.
So the claw fence.
All right.
And it's as a defensive guy, it's nauseating to watch what they do.
The slow mesh.
But it works. And you force that linebacker to commit, and then the running back goes over here, and you're like, why? How is this a thing? But I'm gonna go with them. The loss they had on their schedule is Clemson. They already took that loss, and they took it in overtime. Yeah. They should win every game for the rest of the year. So they're going to be at the what? Do you disagree?
Really? No. I'm just that's big time.
They should win every game for the rest of the year.
They're going to be 11-1.
11-1, and they're going to be on the outside looking in.
Okay.
Wondering, because guess what? What if Michigan loses? What if Michigan drops a game that's not Ohio State? They lose 2 games,
which wouldn't surprise anybody here.
Wouldn't surprise anybody. What about Alabama playing Ole Miss? That's going to be a problem. That's going to be a problem at Vaught Hemingway. You don't think so?
No.
You don't think so?
Oh, Coach, that's going to be a problem.
Okay.
That'll be a good one.
I can't wait to revisit this.
All right. We're going to revisit it. I'm going to go.
But listen, they NC State without Devin Leary is a completely different football team. UNC is a team that anyone can score against. The hardest game on their schedule is going to be Syracuse, and Syracuse can't score the way that Wake Forest can score. I think Wake goes undefeated the rest of the way. They're going to be 11-1. Clemson can finish undefeated, and then they'll be Wake's 11-1, and they're looking at standing around like, "Hey guys, what about us?"
Wow, and that coach will be as hot as anybody in America.
Yeah,
at that time. All right, real quick, I'm going to go. SC, I'll tell you what, I watched their press conference after the game against Utah, and I think Lincoln Riley's quote was like, damn, man, I want to go practice right now. And the camera pans to Caleb, and he went from like really sad, somber, gutted to like, let's ride. Like, and I can't wait. And we referenced their schedule earlier. That's the one-loss team that I'm really looking forward to. All right, before we leave in the last minute and a half, who do you want to give some love to in advance of this weekend? I'm going to go first. I'm going to go Stanford, give some love to them. I'm heading to the farm tomorrow. The slow mesh, the Stanford Cardinal against Arizona State interim head coach Sean Iguana, Emory Jones, Felder's guy starting. He's back healthy at quarterback. I'm giving love to that game at 1 o'clock.
All right, I'm going to go really quick here. I'm going to go with Kansas State. Nobody knew what Adrian Martinez was, and kids stepping up. I dig it. That's who I want to give some love to. Is that okay?
He's still running against Oklahoma. They still haven't tackled.
Oh, Coach. All right, who you want to give some love to heading into the weekend?
Because now what I said, Lane's going to be all over my ass. I'm going to go with Ole Miss this week. Because he will use that. You know what he does? He'll cut that out. It'll be on Twitter, all that stuff. Yeah. But they're doing a hell of a job. And they're running the ball like crazy in this league. And I think I'm with you guys. They're a better football team than people give them credit for. The only problem is their strength is also Alabama's strength. And that's why I said what I said earlier. I mean, their strength on offense is Alabama's strength on defense. That'll be different down the road. But this week against LSU, it could be ugly again for those Tigers.
Yeah. Well, we got a fun weekend of football. Coach Leach, much love to them and their program. I know they lost a teammate today and a member of their family. So a lot of love to Mississippi State and Coach Leach.
Sorry about that. That's right.
Yeah.
That's really tough.
They've got a challenging game. Mike Leach, hate to say it, but he's been through that before with the passing of a player. So we wish them obviously the absolute best.
For sure.
UNLV, Notre Dame. It's going to be an intriguing game. Like Notre Dame's got to get it going again after that loss to Stanford over the weekend. UT Martin, come on now against Tennessee. The SEC 8 conference games. Here we go. We're going to end on that. Keep it locked right here. If you want to check it out, go to the YouTube page, Sirius XM, and get your swag like Felder does. And Felder, I don't know how you find the time to watch all these games, but I feel like you know every critical moment in every game that happens each weekend, man. All right, this is the Field of 12 After Dark.